The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethymarket.com. Ethymarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers.
Hello and welcome to the One People Show. Hello and welcome everyone to this week's Collective Imagination Show. And once again, I'm joined with Barbara Carnes.
Hi, I'm here.
There's a slight delay. I think it's my internet, guys. So bear with us. We've had. I'm so sick of saying this. Wow, what a week! Can you top last week? Yeah, I think we can. So hello to everybody in the chat room. Thank you for joining us in there, because it's always good to have you guys play along with us. And again, I feel like Romper Room. I can see John and I can see Jules. And there's more joining all the time, so that's lovely. Welcome. So we apparently upset one or two people last week with our Imagineering. And was accused of trying to create a hive mind, and we're a couple of witches, and it was interesting. I'll put it that way. And they made their presence known in our Facebook page, which Barbara handled rather eloquently. Thank you, Barbara.
I'm trying to find it now.
I don't see anything hive mind. I think, like you stated, caught in a hive mind net. It's trying to break free from that. I think that's what we're trying to do here. But you know, each to their own.
Let's see if it's this one.
Now, shortly after, in fact, right after last week's show, I received a Skype message saying that without even knowing it, what we did was activate or participate in Operation Snow Globe, which was another energetic doing that another group would, I guess, working on. They called Operation Snow Globe. And I had no idea about any of it. But then the image that we created last week with all the bubbles perfectly matched Operation Snow Globe.
Did it really?
Yeah. And then somebody drew a gorgeous image. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
I actually put it onto our Facebook page because for some reason I couldn't, which was interesting. I may be able to bring it up and share it with you. It was, someone did a drawing straight after, and it was it's just beautiful. Let me see if I can find it. So how has your week been of working with our manifesto affirmation for last week?
I can't tell anymore if the affirmations that I'm doing are impacting my result, or I'm just living in a life where this is what I can expect every day now. So I can't tell where one ends and one begins, but I've had a pretty cool week, synchronistically and spiritually, and connected wise and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not sure I can actually find that guy. Maybe we don't really need his name. Basically, what he did was he called us witches, and then I said, which one of us? And he said, both of you, look at your logo. It's demonic, or it's Antichrist, or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, I guess because somewhere in it you can see a X or a cross, but and I laughed and I said, well, I can tell you I created it, and that was just not in my imagination at all at the time. So, wake up. It's not us. And then he came back and he said we should burn and kill us and stuff like that. And then I said, I was just really polite, and I said something to the effect of, listen, be nice with the other posters or we'll have to ban you. Play nice in the sandbox with the other posters. But you know what? We have a troll. Somebody's taking the time to slam a post because we are beginning to impact the world again. And so we've got our first troll. And I think that makes us special. And I think that means we're doing something right.
Oh, that's funny. I guess.
Well, he doesn't bother me.
It sounds a little.
Did you find that image?
No, I'm looking for it now.
Is it on your Facebook page? Activity.
It did get put onto my Facebook page, but so does a zillion other things.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to go to photos under your Facebook page. By the way, speaking of Facebook pages, the Collective Imagination is on Facebook.
Found it. Okay, I'm going to share the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. How cool is that?
That's really cool. Wow.
Barbara,
I just realized something without even thinking about it. I would have to go and look to get the date, but sometime over the weekend, I actually took a bunch of pictures of bubbles in one of the bird baths. I stuck a sprinkler, but like a hose with a thing on the end of it, and I just stuck it in the water and just pushed it, and I was getting bubbles galore, and it looks very similar to this with all the reflections and stuff. So I didn't even realize it, and I was manifesting in reality what we had already talked about spiritually. Was completely unaware of it.
Nice. And now I can't find how to get out of here. Hang on. Stop sharing. There we go. But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was gorgeous and very close to what I visualized myself.
Yeah, that was really beautiful. But I don't know anything about that project. So what was that project?
I don't know anything about it either. I don't really know anything about it either, other than that's what they're referring to it as. And apparently somehow we helped create or manifest or participate or something. So, oh, hang on, no, I'm being updated as we speak. No group, only planet. This is her plan. Thank you. Don't you hate being called what we are? Witches, bitches, whatever. I'm glad to hear of the resistance. Must be we're on the right track. Were you wanting the picture that I just showed, or what were on Facebook? Sorry, I'm having multiple conversations now. So there you go. Planet's Operation Snow Globe. So that's even cooler.
So what about the people in the chat room? Did anybody have any interesting experiences? And can you remember and relay the affirmation from last week?
I've got it here.
It was provided by Deborah Denmark, wasn't it?
No, it was out of Florence Scovel Shin's book.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because I'm gonna look this up again.
This particular book?
No, you found the affirmation from last week in that book? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm not looking at you. I'm looking for something on Facebook, because I'm pretty sure Deborah Denmark's the weekend before the show sent that same one and posted it on the Collective Imagination Facebook page. But I just want to find it first, which that would be pretty ironic.
That would be. Because I've handled notes here, and I've been going through that and taking out some of the ones I like, and I'm writing them down. And,
well, if she's in the chat room, Deborah, tell us where you came up with yours, and that would be an interesting story. So I'm looking right now, because she posted it on the Posts by Other page first.
Spirit is my supply every month. Oh, we've got a big delay, and we keep talking over each other.
That is what she sent. That is what she sent. That's bizarre. She sent it on August 25th. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so listen, guys, bear with us for a second, because this is kind of interesting. August 25th is, that's when I reposted it. Okay, let's see when she posted it. I posted it that morning before the show on the Facebook page. I moved it. I used the admin capabilities and moved it or made a copy of it and reposted it on the main page. But she originally posted it on the morning of the 25th, so the same day as our show last week. But before you brought that affirmation, she posted a picture. Here, let me see if I can share my screen. That's freaky. Okay. Oops. No.
Because I didn't share it at all before the show. I didn't know what we were going to use.
I know, which is, I didn't realize during the show that you used that. But I went online because I was going to find a picture and put the words on the picture and post it so everyone could have it during the week. And then I saw that that's the same one that Deborah had posted. So I thought you had just gone to the page and seen it and didn't say anything more about it. But let me share my screen. I've pushed the button, but it's taking it a moment. Okay, it's this one, but I've got to move it to the Collective Imagination one. Okay, let me move it over a little bit. There, can you see that?
I can.
That's Deborah's post.
That's bizarre.
That is bizarre. So the morning before the show, she posted this. If you go to the Collective Imagination inbox, she even sends us a message and says, listen, I don't know if you saw this in the other posts, in the post by others, but I just wanted you to see it. I thought maybe it might be a good affirmation for the show. And that's exactly the one you picked from a completely different source. Now, guys, if that isn't an example of how connected we are and what we have the ability to create here in this life that we have, what do you want? Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Lisa, for being open enough to somehow get that information from Deborah and point you to another place where you found the exact same one. Woo! I got shivers for that one.
That's cool.
That's
quite a coincidence.
Yep.
Well, that's exactly what we use. Spirit is my supply, and there is supply to meet every demand.
Yep. There's Deborah Denmark. You get all the credit, Goya friend. Okay, cool. Let's stop sharing.
Okay, Judith just put an interesting video. The channel is called Dante Santori, Alien Humankind. The video is about the explosions in China, where he said that 2017 to 2022 has become 2015 to 2022. They will most likely not make a lot of sense unless you have watched some sequels like The Matrix, The Twins, The Door. I don't know what that last one is. Christy? curiosity. The timeline thing that we touched on it last week too on this show. Things are getting funkier and funkier there. Last week we focused on the idea that the financial system that we're currently using and under is going to crash, but how to make it crash, or how to participate in that crash in a way that is easy, peaceful, and ultimately positive for everybody. But the idea that that is what's going on, I think, is we're seeing more and more evidence of that every day. There's no real denying that, I don't think.
I'm having some of the same experiences, so I was really interested in that when you guys brought it up yesterday. And that clock, anybody who didn't see yesterday's show when the archive comes, go check it out. Whose clock was it that they sent you the video and it was just moving on its own?
That was Jeff Gates, and I have to say, it was this was the thing about the clock. It wasn't a regular clock. It wasn't just a battery operated clock on the wall. It's actually a GPS clock, and it works on, I don't know, he rattled something off, but there's GPS involved. And he said he physically felt something kind of whoosh through the room. And at that point, his clock just started doing this. And it kept going. It kept going. After the show, we were still on a call together, and he's holding the clock in his hand. and then it stopped. It stopped dead at some point. But I mean, it gained hours, multiple hours in that time. But the interesting thing was, it's not just an ordinary battery operated clock. There was
that makes
magnetic,
it more interesting.
yeah.
Almost as if it could be impacted by the electromagnetic field in some way. A shift in it or something.
Well, you reminded me of a conversation I had last night with two guys here from Australia. Lovely guys. And they, with the subject of Simon Atkins came up. Have you been following any of his stuff?
No, but I'd be interested to hear.
Simon Atkins has a company that, how do I put this? Because I'm not even sure if I understand it properly. The biggest threat to, countries and economies and whatever, in his mind, is solar galactic influences, weather. All right. So he has some form of technology that has allowed him to monitor solar flares and solar activity and sort of cosmic winds and all of that sort of thing. And he's got a very good track record of predicting earth changes, volcanoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, what have you. Apparently his track record is spot on. This has led him somehow to looking at the negative and positive ions that are put out by the sun and their effect on all life on this planet, because we are negatively and positively affected by ions. So I know I'm dumbing this down, and I'm dumbing it down for me because my understanding of it is not, I haven't looked into it enough yet. But he's been able to pinpoint this period in September where there's going to be a flux. The sun is going to put out a big burst of negative and a big burst of positive ions. But in the period in between, there's this flux, which is going to have the most impact. So he's saying that there's going to be a small percentage of the planet who don't cope. I think it's around 10 to 15% who completely lose their shit. That for those who can handle it, it is kind of the X wave, the big ascension wave. It's the, all that stuff that people have talked about for years, where this wave's going to come and hit, and you'll either take what you can handle and expand your consciousness. Your body will change, the DNA will be affected, all of that. And for those who can't, they may in fact just kind of lose their shit for a while. He said the sign to look for in one of the videos that I'd listened to, the sign to the public figure gets kind of dragged off stage by the public because they're so clearly mentally unstable that they can't be trusted in their role. He said when that happens, we're right in the thick of it.
Interesting. Wow.
So eyes peeled for world leaders, looking at world leaders to see what happens.
I know.
But it's all coming from the sun. And this has been a conversation that Dee and I have had for a couple of years, that we both felt that the sun was going to play a major role in whatever was coming. And which is why she watches all of the solar activity. She posts on that a lot when things are happening, certain X flares and M flares and what have you. But there does seem to be a correlation, a dance even, between the Earth and the sun. They are talking to each other. And we're speculating at this point that the planet, if it's a globe, is tilting, the North Pole is tilting towards the sun more. And which would explain a lot of the weather anomalies, the animal die-offs. If the magnetic ley lines around the planet are all shifting, then migratory animals are screwed. For what?
Yeah, wasn't she talking about octopi?
And that was just one particular one that was at their beach.
That just kept going in the wrong way, like his sonar was off.
Mm-hmm. But we're seeing these mass animal die-offs and beachings. And when it comes to birds, this is something I want to put out there and ask, because when we've had these huge bird die-offs where they just literally fall from the sky, and you end up with these people all running around with masks on trying to collect them. I've never seen anything that came out with a cause, like nothing conclusive. But I don't know whether they're dying on impact from hitting the ground, like something messes with them up there and they just die on impact, or whether they're dying in the air and then falling to the ground.
And just falling. Didn't you see something like that once?
Sorry?
Didn't you see something like that once? I might be mistaking you with somebody else, but I thought maybe you talked about seeing something like that once.
Not birds.
Okay.
No.
I'm mixing you up with somebody else.
If you're a migratory bird, and apparently migratory birds know it's all perfectly designed. They have enough energy to go from one place to the next.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, they work out how much, how far they can fly based on how, their energy and their food and when they'll need to store up again. Mm-hmm. But if your GPS is off and you get to your exhaustion and starvation point and you're actually still over water.
What are you going to do?
You've just got to keep going.
Until you can't go anymore.
Yeah, would they fly to the point where they just die of exhaustion in the air and then drop? Is that possible? Or I don't know what's killing these things. The birds are the big question for me. Are there sea animals that you can say would beaching themselves or whatever? That's one thing. But a lot of the animals are dying, are washing up dead. But there's so much going on in the oceans. When we've got these sonar equipment down in the oceans that there's a lot of campaigns about trying to get people to stop them because it's messing with whales and dolphins, and they let off one of these pulses, it could kill them, and they know that. So are we using things like Fukushima to cover that up? Are we, there's just too many questions and not enough answers. But I think there's so many cover stories going on that it's hard to get to the real truth of the matter.
Well, you know how I feel about weather manipulation. I know that it takes place.
Yeah, it does. But are we, of all of these things, CERN, HARP, Fukushima, and anything else, are they all cover stories for the fact that the planet's shifted?
That's interesting.
Because they don't want us to know that.
That's what's challenging about listening to any news or any information, is it propaganda, or is it, actual reporting of something that happened? Is it man-made? Is it naturally made? Is it happening to us from a source beyond our understanding? Are we creating it by our collective or individual consciousness? Or are we being by somebody? It could just be any of those things. So I just usually go, okay, that's interesting, that's plausible, and then I just shelf it, because what else can you do with it? It's great information, but there's no way to figure out what the source is. But it exists. I mean, I don't really think this is probably the right forum to talk about my whole story with the weather from last January, but just in a brief segment, I was cognitively aware that this blizzard they said it was going to happen in New York wasn't going to happen. And I just got a realization. I understood immediately that this was weather manipulation, because I know my house really well. And having lived there for 17, 18 years, something like that, there are pockets of whirlwinds just simply by the way that this house is built and the things around it and the trees and everything. And when you look out the window, I know where they are, and I can tell where the wind's coming from, and everything. And so in the fall, you get to see the leaves turn in these beautiful whirlwinds for sometimes hours in the backyard and the side yard. But that night, when it was supposed to be a blizzard, what was happening was some artificial source was coming in and scooping up the snow and just moving it around and dropping it again and scooping it up and moving it around. So it gave the illusion of a blizzard, but it wasn't a blizzard. We never got blizzard conditions at all. I think the most I had at my house was 6 inches, which is what I went into it saying, okay, I'll accept 6 inches, but anything more than that, I don't accept. And we got about 6 inches, and I documented it all through the night. So, I mean, this because I told you the story live. I said, listen, we just got a phone call from our county representative. It was a recording, and it said, this is not a joke, or this is real, or something like that, before he went into saying that we were having this horrible blizzard, the worst that has ever been in the history of,
this is not a drill.
Right. And therefore, at X hour, I think it was 11 p.m., is a curfew. And they called it a curfew, but basically it was a, what's the word? Where you're basically stuck. You can't leave without being stopped. What is that called?
Sounds like martial law to me.
Yeah, martial law. It was really a reason for them to test martial law. And I'm telling Lisa before 11 o'clock, I said, this is not real. This is fake. And this is the reasons why it's fake. And I'm taking pictures all night long. And I'm saying it now. And I'm saying it for the record, because I'm going to tell you before it happens, because it's not going to happen. I'm going to tell you now so that when it doesn't happen, you can go back and see that I said it wasn't going to happen. So weather is manipulated, and I feel like something bigger went on. It was a complete diversion, but for what? I have no idea. But it was, you couldn't see anything out the skies were really the weather brought the clouds down, and this, whatever this was, swirling and stuff. It was actually scary at times because the winds were really heavy, but it was all manufactured to hide something else. Was it hiding something going on in the sky? Was it creating that so that something far away, like something happened in the city that day down on Wall Street, although I don't remember what it was. I'll never know. But I do know that happens. I was a witness to it, and I'd be happy to attest to it in any situation. But you never really know anymore what's the truth and what's not the truth. So you just have to find that point of discernment and discern for yourself what makes sense for you, and then move on. It's too many weird things going on.
Far too many. So I'd love to hear from anybody. There's quite a few people in the chat room, and I'd love to hear from you as to whether you played with that last week's affirmation and how it felt, if you did, and what you saw or experienced. We want to hear from you guys. For me personally, it was my lifeline, that affirmation, because I found my head wanting to go in other places. And every time I did, I grabbed it. I grabbed that lifeline, and it changed my whole demeanor. You know, and consequently, I actually did get through the week. Just, you know, Spirit did meet the demands. So in whatever way they looked, and even though at the time we did the affirmation based on the financial side of things, Spirit will meet the demand, any demand, you know, whatever that demand is. And that's what I found was I broadened my scope on what that could mean and how it can supply.
Well, and again, for anyone who doesn't recall what it was or came in late, the affirmation last week was, Spirit is my supply, and they're a supply to meet every demand. I had a really cool self-actualization, I guess you could call it, for lack of knowing what else to refer to it as. I was in the pool the other day, and it was in midday. Sun was really bright, and it was coming down on me, and I'm looking down at the pool, and all you can see at that point, for anyone who's ever been in a pool, is your dark profile. And then as you move, there are like waves or, you know, vibrations that come off of it. And this pool is really cool because it's got all these filters and stuff in it. So there's always water moving anyway. So if you add that movement with your movement, you get these amazing designs that unfortunately I can't capture with a camera because I'm in the pool. I don't think I'm supposed to get the camera wet. But just looking at that image, it felt more like me. Like it represented how I feel about myself more than this does. Because I feel like I'm a source or and something that exists, like the profile, like the dark, you know, just the dark image, dark profile. And with all of those things moving off of me, that's like my energy. That's my thoughts moving off and back. That's my feelings. That's my energy. And everything that is me, the vibration and frequency that is me. And just watching that, it was so cool because you realize that image that you see in the pool is actually what's happening around your physical body when you're not, you know, when you're just in regular space. It's just intangible. You can't see it, but that same interaction is happening all the time. So if you ever get a chance to go in a pool, I highly recommend it, and just look down at yourself in the pool, because that will give you a visualization of what happens with your own thoughts and energy and energetic interaction and connection with the world, just simply by looking at that image in the pool.
And there's no beginning and no end to you and your surroundings.
Yeah, yep, that's true. There was something else I was going to say too, but I can't remember what it was. It'll come to me. It'll come to me.
While you're doing that, sort of moving on from the timeline discussion, or adding to the timeline discussion. If what we are doing right now, actually, I want to ask you this question. Backtrack it for a second. If we're going through a period of timelines collapsing, which means alternate versions of us, I'm speculating at this point that we're absorbing or assimilating these alternate versions of us that exist on these other timelines. I've had enough feedback from people to say they've had an experience where they felt that that's what happened. And it comes with all kinds of symptoms. Desires that you didn't have before.
And
Affinity.
sometimes energy.
Health conditions changing overnight. How could I put this? I mean, it expresses itself in so many ways. A desire to even express yourself in a creative way that you've never had before. I haven't come across anything yet that gives us an indication definitively whether we're assimilating other versions of us or just jumping timelines. And I think because some of them seem to be clear indications of a timeline jump and some of them seem to be clear indications of an assimilation. So it's maybe both are going on. Maybe it isn't just one or the other. Maybe there's been a lot of playing hopscotch over the last few years while this sorts itself out, Rejuvenated creativity for sure is one comment. But I wanted to ask you if you've had any experiences that would suggest to you that you've done one or the other. Jumped to timeline or assimilated another aspect of yourself.
Both. But also I think that there may very well be times when I jump to timeline and I'm not even aware, because when I jumped whatever timeline I was on, that memory doesn't exist for me anymore. So I think that I wouldn't know, but I have the feeling sometimes that I'm living differently than, it just feels different for some reason. And because I can't always refer back, but there are definitely times when I know that something doesn't fit. Like you guys, like I think it was Dee that was talking about, you gave an example and it was about books back in maybe the 1950s. And she said, well, they could be telling the truth because in the memory where they recalled that those books existed, but in this current timeline, they don't exist that way anymore. So you couldn't find them, for example. I think that exists for me also, where I recall certain things a certain way, but it cannot be confirmed with today's information. And so I'm aware of it. So I'm aware of the change. But I also think there are times when I'm completely not aware of the change and something has changed. And all I'm aware of is that something doesn't feel like it fits together perfectly like a Tinker toy or something. And then some of it's assimilation. Because I almost feel like I'm going out on a limb here because it's a little kind of scary to say this stuff in public, but I live a really magical life. And there are things that happen to me that have to be assimilations based upon my willingness to allow and absorb and accept things that I'm coming across, as opposed to dismissing them or, pretending they don't exist or not wanting to even think about it. And I'm talking really fucking magical stuff. It's like, it's kind of scary. Like sometimes, I posted a pool picture. So anybody who knows my Facebook page, go to my Facebook page and look for the picture of pool water that I posted over the weekend. That fucking picture looks animated. It doesn't look like a real photograph. And when I look at the world, sometimes that's why I try to take those pictures. My world feels animated like that. And I'm looking at it and I'm seeing it, and it doesn't look the same as it used to. And I'm happy to accept it the way it is because I like it. I like that it's weird and magical and looks cartoonish and not real. And then there are other times when I actually can feel like, I'll look at my hands and go, wow, those are like hands in this body that I'm in, and I get to use these hands. How cool is that? You know, that's weird thinking, but yet it makes me aware of the fact that I am enjoying the benefit of this, vacation body that I have during this life stand that I'm in. But I totally can accept and relate to it like it's not me. Stuff like that, weird stuff. So I assimilate a lot of it because as things are happening and I'm becoming more willing to allow, I'm letting a lot of cool shit in, but it's like doesn't feel real. It feels completely differently dimensional. So everything you said applies, and also the fact that sometimes I think I moved to another timeline and I don't know what I left behind. I think sometimes they're clean. I also am willing to accept all possibilities when it comes to what happens to those other timelines. Do they pre-exist? Do they exist simultaneously, linearly? Do they exist simultaneously on top of each other? Are they all holographic illusions that I'm just kind of migrating and moving through as an energetic body? I'm happy to accept any of those possibilities as the truth because I don't really know what the truth is. I just know what my experiences are.
I love your stories. They're awesome. But you reminded me of something else. The guys that I was talking to last night. Michael Tellinger's here in Australia at the moment doing a tour. And they went and saw his presentation.
Who's they?
The two Aussie guys that I was talking to, like friends of mine. And they said that what he presented was some pretty interesting stuff, which was he's revisiting and examining a lot of the ancient architecture around the planet, Stonehenge type of stuff, and even the ancient Greek, the Egyptian, everything, and looking at it from an aerial point of view. And apparently, what you have, according to a guy who builds computer circuit boards, are circuit boards. These things are laid out like circuit boards, exactly. That, especially in the Greek, they're full of columns. They love their columns, which don't actually make any architectural sense. They're not necessary for the structure of the building. They're mostly ornamental. You can have these huge rooms with 20 pillars in it for no real reason. That they act as transmitter receivers. There's another guy that's been thrown into the mix who has a technology that can read the energy that's being emitted from these buildings, and they're still operational. They're still working.
So you mean all they have are pillars and like a ceiling or something, but he can measure an energetic charge from them and he can tell they're working? Interesting.
So this is kind of a combination of a number of conversations I've had over the last month. And I've been trying to throw it all together in the mix and see what I get since last night, which is the information that's come to me is that the Earth changed position back in 1948, or the ley lines shifted back in 1948. Prior to that time, well, further back, where we had all of the, God, my brain doesn't want to work. So part of me doesn't want to say this, or someone doesn't want me to say this. All of the architecture that was put on the ley lines and on the nodes of the ley lines, you know, like your Stonehenge and everything else, your temples, were placed in connection with the ley lines, and they were used as energy centers for healing and for putting in some very positive vibrations, communicating that it was this neural network around the planet. They were usurped, you know, it was done inside those places, then was to feed the grid with negative energy, you know, doing worship and sacrifices and what have you, and generating a lot of fear, which then fed fear into this universal network. But then in 1948, the ley line shifted. In 1949 was the first time CERN was ever spoken of. So
wow.
CERN is not the only, the one that we know of in Switzerland is not the only facility of its kind. There's actually smaller ones all around the planet that support this one. So is CERN and its support network an attempt to replace the old network, which was the churches and the temples and what have you? That's a question. And are the old ones still actually working? They're still transmitting and receiving. But when you look at it, the idea of it being like a circuit board, I mean, that whole idea of holographic universe, and this is all just a computer software program. How can I put this? When I say computer software program, it's not as if there was a builder who sat there and created a circuit board. It's a consciousness created circuit board. Yeah,
I'm totally with you.
It's wild. If these circuit boards happen, you know, are planted all around the planet, and if they are still working, but for whatever reason, maybe they're working again. Do you remember when all those, when was it, 2013 maybe? There was photos that flooded the internet of light coming out of the pyramids.
From a couple different places, from like Chile and Egypt and South America, all these different places.
Yep.
Mexico.
Sure. Maybe that was them switching back on.
I definitely believe that in the possibility of that, only because in a holographic universe, the reason, here's how I view it, kind of, based on Michael Talbot's writings, which I so relate to. Because our physicality is made up of atoms, and, you know, I'll just use atoms because it's easiest. And they vibrate, and they vibrate close to one another based on a magnetism and a frequency. The frequency pulls them together and has them stay tight. That's why our skin is our skin, and our organs are our organs, and the chair is our chair. And, you know, everything, like the chair and me are separate, but the things that make up my body are each individuals, because they're all vibrating at a different frequency, which is like a communication where they stick together. And the holographic universe is created by our energetic projection, which has a magnetic or electromagnetic reaction to all of the things that are of physicality and forms them. So in the same, so none of it is real. This table is just as alive as I am, because the table is made up of atoms that each have their own individual, I don't want to say mind, but consciousness. And that consciousness attracts based on frequency. So I think that anything, whether it's a pyramid or a person or anything, if you're talking about frequency and vibration, and especially an electromagnetic field or light, or, you know, all the different things that we've been talking about, all those things are means by which the holographic universe forms and reforms itself, communicates with itself and how it interacts with itself. So if those things are on and we could figure out how to use them, we may not be able to use them the way that we as formed bodies would interact with, like this lamp, for example, you know, but we would interact with them on a frequency level if we can figure out how to do that, whether it's we raise our frequency, whether it's we can use sounds, certain tones with sounds, whether we can use certain words, whether we, you know, I mean, it's endless. It could be visual, it could be sound, it could be taste, it could be anything sensory. But I think that's definitely possible, and I would love to figure out how to. I would love to live long enough to figure out how to interact with some of those things, because I think they could be anything from portals to healing mechanisms to you know, a library of communication resources. It could be endless what the possibilities of that could be.
Well, aren't we vibrating in and out of existence, essentially? I think it's something like 17 trillion times a second. Like it's something
astronomical, just like that.
There may be. I mean, it's. I don't know how I'm trying. What I'm trying to. I mean, I know what I'm trying to say. I just don't know how to say. Form that's very fast. So raising our own vibration or waveform to match it, so that it essentially, or can you influence that to slow down? Because that's what, like psychic surgery, walking through walls, you know. You might have seen the clip of the Asian Buddhist dude who puts a chopstick through the table. That's the key to that. It's communicating with every atom. And the funny thing is that every atom knows exactly what it's meant to be. So it's like every atom in your eye, for example, flickers out of existence and back into existence in exactly the same formation. It knows exactly how it's supposed to come together. They don't flicker out and then come back into your nose and you end up, you know, kind of all messed up. It knows there's a template that it just absolutely follows, that it knows. And I mean, it's exactly the same with, you know, our human bodies when they're developing. You start off with a single cell, and they're all the same cells. They're exactly the same. And some of them develop into a heart, some into the skin, some into bone. And what is it? What's the intelligence that's telling that?
But it is intelligent, obviously, or it wouldn't exist.
And it's as if it's inherent in the cell itself.
I believe it is inherent, and I believe it's a level. I think it is a type of intelligence at a consciousness level. So it's not a physical thing. It's an intangible, just like our thought processes and our feelings again. But it's happening at a microscopic atomic level. You know, at the atom, the nucleus, the, you know, electron, proton, and the nucleus, and they're all making sure that they're stuck together. But I also think that the communication part of it, there are two sides: being a receiver, or being able to, what was the word you used? Influence it, or being able to send, I guess, is a sender or receiver. Transmit. Yeah, because I'm more of a receiver. But I also am getting really better at bringing my energy, my sensory energy, meaning how I feel about something, to the level of other people. That's how I find people. Like if I want to try to talk to somebody as a test, I think of them, what they look like, where they may be, and there's this feeling, and I keep looking for it until I like click in. And when you think of someone, like if I think of you, I have like just I can feel my energy change. If I think about this guy I work with named Alan, my energy changes. And once you find that exact match, it's almost like, you know, it clicks in. And so I'm good at sensory, raising or lowering myself to try and connect with other people. But for example, I can't quite figure out how to stick my hand through this table. But I do think it's part of it's receiving and part of it is sending. And I'm really good at receiving information. I'm still working on how to be a sender, how to be an influencer.
You know, I know too many people here in Australia, Indigenous people, original people, who, not that they come right out and say it, but they've all got stories, and white people who've got stories about their Indigenous friends. One of my Indigenous friends calls it black telecom. This ability for telepathy. Yeah, it's a black telecom. Stories of people materializing. And this is not old fables. This is what's going on now. Shape-shifting into kangaroos. Turning up in the middle of the desert on foot. Just, there I am. There are those among them who still remember, who still know how. And I'm sure that's the same in a lot of Indigenous cultures around the world. You know, they just don't, you know, on the sly, in secret, and still doing that stuff. There was an incident several years ago now. Oh, was it that? Couldn't have been that long ago. Maybe 10 or 15 years ago. There was a natural disaster up north, right up north in Darwin. And they actually fenced off the area and locked everybody out. But the local Indigenous guys just kept appearing inside the fenced area. How are you guys getting in? Oh, yeah. We have our ways. You know, there's too many stories, even current stories, that we do have these abilities, that we've just forgotten. That's all.
And well, here's go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, that's a good affirmation for today, is to remember.
That would be a good one. Let me tell you that if I close my eyes, and I practice with a lot of different things because I'm trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, how to allow more and more in. If I close my eyes, especially if I listen to certain music, I can take myself mentally to wherever I want to go, and I can feel it, and I can smell the smells, and you know, I'm there. Except if I open my eyes, I know I'm not. So I'm trying to figure out that one last step where I can actually, instead of closing my eyes, just be in the now, and whatever I would be seeing if I closed my eyes and was like, you know, able to visualize, have that happen in real time and be there. And if that's the case, then let's take it a step further. So if that's the case, then that means that I could close my eyes and be in my, I don't know, 8th grade 4-H class or something like that. And if that's true, then I have done that before. And when I was in that 4-H class the first time, I had to have seen myself somewhere because I would have already done it back then, even though I've just done it now. Have I lost you? In other words, if I close my eyes, I can be in that class. I can feel how the stool I had to sit on felt, and who sit next to me, and what kind of clothes they had on, and I can feel and sense all of that until I open my eyes. But if I can figure out that one last step, or if I can do that, then I've done it. I'm able to do it. And once I'm able to do it, when I was in that class the first time, surely I had to have seen myself, or I had to have felt something at that moment, because even though it didn't happen until just now, it actually also happened then, and it had to have happened then as well. I would think that's a possibility. So we've done this many times. We just have to see if we can remember how to do it. Have you ever thought about, especially when you were younger, what it would be like to run into an older version of yourself, or maybe right around the next corner there you would be? No? When I was little, I used to think that.
I've done it from this end.
Yeah, I did it when I was little. I kept thinking, what if an older version of myself is there and they're going to give me some advice? Weird shit like that. I've always had a great imagination. But maybe I thought that because maybe I've done that. I just haven't done it yet because I'm not there yet. You know, I've thought about weird shit like that.
I do have a cool story of, I don't know if I've ever told it on air before. Do you want to hear?
Oh,
hear
please.
It? It's quite involved though. Okay.
That's okay.
I have to lay the groundwork. So I'm 19 years old. I'm living with my first boyfriend and his family. I'm engaged and I'm completely miserable. And I'm lying on my bed crying. And my father's been dead for about 4 years at this point. And as I'm lying down, I'm in that very, you know, when you're so emotional and you've been crying for so long and you're almost crying yourself to sleep and you're in that fuzzy state. You're awake, but you're not totally awake, alert. And as I'm lying there, I feel my father walk up to the side of the bed and bend down to meet me, to face me. And he's got this really weird look on his face, like it's a smirk almost, and it didn't look nice at all. And it sort of jolted me. Skip forward many years. Phoenix, who's now just turned 8, she was probably about 18 months old. That's how far it's going back, 6.5 years. I was driving into town with the kids for a shopping day, and I'm perfectly fine, perfectly healthy. And I get a phone call from my mum, who tells me that her best friend of 20-odd years has just passed from lung cancer. And, you know, I give mum my condolences and what have you. Within an hour, I'm in town with the girls. I'm starting to feel uncomfortable around my chest. Feels like my bra's on too tight. I'm, you know, constantly pulling it. Oh. And as the day wore on, I'm starting to feel more and more uncomfortable. By the time I actually drove in the driveway at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, this was 9 o'clock in the morning, I got the phone call. I'm sick as a dog. I am fevered. I'm shaking. Every muscle aches. I can barely lift my leg to get out of the car. So I go and have a shower. I must have stood under that shower for 45 minutes, just working on myself. And all of the pain in my body seemed to move and concentrate itself in this spot right under my right breast. And it was so sharp, it felt like I'd broken a rib. And it was puncturing my lung, and that's how it felt. I could barely breathe. Every breath was painful. But at least the rest of my body wasn't aching. And I went and laid down, and I put on some music, and I was determined to just heal myself. So I'm working on myself for like 20 minutes, maybe more. Nothing's shifting. I can't breathe. And out of sheer frustration, in my head, I screamed, "Somebody fucking help me." What's happening? And at that moment, a butterfly, as clear as day, just went into my vision. And it said, "You are in a process of transformation." I'm like, what the fuck?
Wow.
I missed a couple of bits as the background. One was I had pleurisy around that, so just keep that in mind. And also, a few days before this event, I had done a meditation, a new meditation that was supposed to, it was a law of attraction thing. Anyway, so this butterfly says, "You're in a process of transformation." And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, what the fuck? And as soon as I questioned it, the butterfly disappears. And what I keep referring to as Gandalf the Grey turned up. Because that's exactly long white hair, long white beard. And he said, you are. I said, "Caused by what? What's going on?" And it said, "The meditation that you did a couple of days before." And I was like, that was nothing. That was absolutely no, I'm not buying that. And what it instantly went into was showing me how I had picked up this frequency around abundance from my father, and I was clearing that whole genetic line. Right? So that was one level of what was going on, clearing all of that. And then he said, "And do you remember when you had pleurisy?" Which was something I had completely forgotten about. It was not, I'd never thought about it. Next thing I know, as soon as he says, "Do you remember when you had pleurisy?" I'm in my room at that point, standing in the corner looking at myself at 19 years of age, lying on the bed crying my eyes out. And I'm standing in the room looking at myself, feeling all of this empathy for this pathetic young thing who thinks the world is about to end because she feels so stuck, and all of these things that were going on for me at that point. And I'm feeling a lot of empathy for it and a lot of love for it. I'm standing in the corner of the room and I'm telling her that everything's going to be okay. You don't need to kill yourself over this relationship because they're trying to make it. That you are going to meet somebody wonderful and have 3 amazing children, and I'm telling her what's going to happen. And then I walk up alongside of the bed, I bend down and I meet her face. And in that moment, everything went fucking sideways. I was having the experience from both ends. I was the 40-year-old me, looking at her, and I was the 19-year-old me thinking I'm seeing my dad, realizing now it wasn't my dad, it was me.
It was you.
And I went, why did I think it was my dad in that moment? And Gandalf said, because the 19-year-old you couldn't have handled seeing the 40-year-old you. So it was actually the 19-year-old you that kind of morphed your face just enough that you read it as your dad with a smirk on his face. Right? Because what I was also doing that day in that process, and why he took me back to that moment, was because my mum's best friend passing, what I got was when we pass, we take whatever frequencies or imbalances, everything, we take them with us. And everybody who shares that frequency on the planet has an opportunity to clear it. It's a gift that we give each other.
Oh,
so
wow.
The frequency that she was carrying that manifested for her as lung cancer was so similar to the one I was carrying back at 19 that manifested for me as pleurisy. So I was also in a process of clearing that frequency thanks to her. Right? So I'm dealing with all of these things at once, clearing this stuff from my dad around abundance because of that meditation, clearing this frequency that manifested as pleurisy, thanks to my mum's best friend. And in the process, had the opportunity to see how I had in fact visited myself 20 years earlier.
That's way fucking cool. I mean, there's a lot of takeaways there. You know, there's a lot of takeaways there. I hope people, you know, really listen to that story. What was the meditation? Do you happen to remember?
It came with a book, which I don't have anymore. Someone lent it and never gave it back. I could figure it out.
Well, that's okay. I just wondered if you might happen to recall.
No.
You know, as a matter of fact, I don't keep very much anymore. I used to keep all my books, all my everythings, and slowly I started giving everything away. And when I would get new books, I would, if I get 3 or 4 of them, I'd take them over to the place that sells used books and just donate them. Because I'm trying really hard not to have a lot of stuff so I can feel freer. But I'm also trying to keep the good stuff, like, you know, the pictures and, you know, all the memorabilia stuff, although I just have a son and my son doesn't seem all that interested in hanging on to that stuff for posthumous reasons for his future family members, but that's okay. But I really try hard not to keep stuff. So there are all kinds of things I used to, this house that I'm staying in now, they have floor to ceiling books in 3 different rooms. And I think as lovely as this home is with all the beautiful artwork and pieces they've collected from around the world that are everywhere that I'm looking, it's just breathtaking. I feel like I'm in a gorgeous museum, but I wouldn't want it for myself because I don't want the responsibility of all this stuff.
Well, that shedding of stuff has been going on, you know. And can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
That shedding of stuff, yeah, a lot of us are doing that over the last few years.
Yeah, I don't own a single book now. I did have like 5 left. They were like the ones that I, you know, hung on to. And I posted them one day as a lark, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And my niece saw them and she said, "Ooh, can I have this one? Can I have that one? Maybe for Christmas." And so at Christmas, what I did was I printed a picture of that post and put the books in exactly the same order and then wrapped them and then bound them, you know, so that they would be wrapped in the same order and put them in a box and sent them all to her. I said, "I'll just give them all to you." Now I don't have any books, not even the holographic universe, which I've marked up so many times.
Judith in the chat room saying she's got a 111 moment. So please share. So is Deborah. Shedding. Oh, shedding. Yeah. Well, I mean, being on the road with nothing but a suitcase for, I don't know, most of a year, certainly brings you to the point where you realize stuff is just stuff and you don't need it. It's just
stuff. Yeah, you don't need it. So when she said she has a 111 moment, where did that come from? I'm just curious.
It's in the chat room on the website.
Well, the reason I asked that is because we were talking before the show about, you know, that is one of the topic issues, but we didn't bring it up.
No,
so
not yet.
Isn't it interesting? Deborah, the same woman who posted
No, it was
that.
Judith who said I've got a 111 moment.
Oh, okay.
So Judith, if you're there, can you type it in for us? Do share.
Yeah, the reason I threw that in there for you, Lisa, is I've been taking these 1 minute and 11-second videos because there's just so much beauty here. And I've got 11 of them, actually. I didn't realize that exactly how many I had. I just started doing it on a lark over the weekend, and I counted them before the show started. But I've got 11 1 minute and 11-second videos that are just, 111 moments. And I just thought, how cool is that? I mean, how easy is it for anybody just to, wherever they are at a certain moment, take video for 1 minute and 11 seconds and just post it. Don't worry about what it looks like, if it shakes or if it's goofy. It's a cool 111 moment. I think it'd be neat if people started putting those things up there.
Yeah, Judith had a moment with the clock, the 111.
What was it?
It was 111 when she looked at the clock.
Oh, right now you mean? Oh, I see. So I keep forgetting that wherever we are in the world, it's a different hour of the day. I get a lot of those. I get a lot of repeating numbers and 111s and 1111s and 22, 22, 33, 33, all that stuff all the time. And I don't pay all that much attention to them anymore. I just know that that's just another sign I'm connected.
Oh, getting back to today's affirmation, can you guys hear? There's someone doing their lawns in the background.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
There's a couple that I've picked out. One is, there is no loss of memory in divine mind. Therefore, I recollect everything I should remember, and I forget all that is not for my good. That's one. There are no mysteries in the kingdom. Whatever I should know will now be revealed to me under grace. Either of those appeal?
Yeah, but why do you say under grace?
Well, to me, I equated that with ease, because I've got a girlfriend of mine who, whenever she puts out an affirmation or a request to the universe, she always says, with ease and grace. So for it to be an easy, peaceful manifestation or transition or whatever, with ease and grace.
Got it.
So when I read that, that's what I thought of.
I want to, with ease and grace, I remember.
Oh, yeah, that's easy.
I want to remember.
Yeah. Want to remember it all. And Denise, just the grocery bill tonight came to $101.11.
That's funny. I had the lady in front of me at the drugstore have her bill come up to $11.11 the other day, and I started laughing. And I said, "What? How much was her bill?" And I mean, I'm standing next to her. It's none of my darn business. I said, "How much was her bill?" And she said, $11.11. And I said, "That's really cool. So you get a gift today." And she said, "Yeah, but she's the second one. I had another lady who was here with 11.11." And she goes, "That's just so weird." I said, "Well, maybe the gift is for both of you, the cashier and the customer."
Denise wrote, perhaps drop kingdom. So it could be, there are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know will now be revealed to me with ease and grace.
Sure.
How does that sound?
It sounds good. But just be aware, the last time I said, I think I'm remembering, was the time that the phone called me right back, right as I said that. Do you remember me telling you that story? It was when I was listening to Hotel California, when I first heard it and was like, wait a minute, that sounds like it parallels your all's experience. And I listened to it one afternoon, like 3 times back to back, listening to the lyrics over and over. And I flushed all of them easily. I could see what they meant except for one, and Darius helped me with that. But I'd listened to it for like the 3rd time. And I said aloud, just sitting in my office chair in my home, I said, oh my God, I think I'm remembering. And my phone rang. And I never answer a number that I don't know, because it's usually, like a solicitation, or because nobody calls our house phone. I kept the house phone because I had to, in order to receive calls from somebody that I knew who had to call landlines. So nobody ever called that number. But I thought, I had a friend, her name was Adelma, and she was supposed to be calling me like 3 hours later. And I didn't recognize the number, so I thought, okay, well, maybe it's her calling early and I better take it. So I just said aloud, oh my gosh, I think I'm remembering having listened to the Eagles Hotel California 3 times. And the phone rings right when I say that, and I pick it up, and it's a recording, and it says, let the memories begin. You have been selected. And by that time, I hung it up. And the minute I hung it up, I was like, holy shit, listen to what that lady just said. Let the memories begin. You have been selected. After I had just put together all the Hotel California stuff and said, oh my God, I feel like I think I'm remembering. I was like, gosh, with a big F in front of it. Gosh. So if we want to remember, we will remember. Just everybody, just be willing to allow whatever memories you get, because the ride is about to begin.
Yeah, this happened to me yesterday or the day before. I was doing something mundane, and which often happens when you're doing something mundane, like the dishes. And I had all of these images of something come in, and I was consciously thinking to myself, wow, when was that? And then went, oh, that's not mine. And it was like, where did that come from? Was that another one of those assimilation moments where I've just assimilated the memories of another aspect of me? Was it part of a greater remembering? What was it? I don't know, because that morning I had said this very thing. Basically, I said, I want to understand this timeline business. I want to understand what's going on. I really need to know. And then I had a couple of funky things happen doing the dishes, and the other one was what I shared yesterday on the show, that whole timeline thing unraveled. So it must have been yesterday. But yeah, careful what you ask for.
You will get it. I mean, honestly, you will get it. I remember thinking I had a number of UFOs, but I'm not talking aliens. Just, I did not understand what I was seeing in the sky when I was looking out my window on Long Island. And I kept seeing what were like little stars night after night, but different times of the night, sometimes at 11, sometimes at 4. It didn't really matter. But they would be in the same place, and stars don't stay in the same place. And they were moving, zoom, zoom, doo, 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 doo. And I'm like watching this going, what is that? I really want to know what that is. So I asked, what is that? And I have been getting answers ever since. So again, if you really want to know something, ask, because you'll get the information. You just have to make sure you're ready for it, and that you recognize it when it's right in front of you.
All right, are you ready to do this thing? I will type in what we came up with, which is there are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know will now be revealed to me. With ease and grace.
That's excellent.
Let me know if anyone wants me to tweak that. So there are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know will now be revealed to me with ease and grace. That's it. That feels good.
It does feel good.
And I think my neighbour has just shut up for a minute, so that's a good time.
With ease and grace.
Okay, I'm going to turn my camera off.
Okay.
And we'll go from here. Okay. So take a nice deep breath. bring your consciousness, your attention, your focus into your heart center. Allow it to slowly, gently move down through your body, into your legs, down into your feet. Really feel the connection of your feet with the surface, whether it be the floor, the carpet, the earth, the grass, the sand, wherever you happen to be right now. And feel your consciousness reach out beyond your feet as roots, your roots, come out from your feet and down into the earth, through the floor, into the topsoil, down through the layers, into the harder earth, as it reaches for the center, down through layers of minerals, crystals, down to the very core, to the heart of the planet, where I see a brilliant red crystal, and I wrap my roots around it, connect with it, as I see all of your roots joining me, entwining, as we connect with each other and the planet. I send the planet my love, my gratitude. As I send it to each and every one of you. Whew. I feel like there's a pulse, like a heartbeat coming from the crystal now. I haven't had that before. Allowing the planet's love for you to travel back up through the roots, your roots. Her gratitude for you. Her maternal, unconditional love. Allow yourself to receive it. Allow it to anchor itself in your heart center. And just see this beautiful flow to and fro of energy between you and her core. And while holding that energy in your heart space, see that beautiful bubble that we created last week with its blues and greens, where everybody's thoughts and intentions go. And within this heart space, inside your chest, imbue it with the intent. There are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know would now be revealed to me with ease and grace. There are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know will now be revealed to me with ease and grace. There are no mysteries in spirit. Whatever I should know will now be revealed to me with ease and grace. Now, while holding that bubble within your heart center, with a nice deep breath, we're going to send a replica of it into the greater bubble of our collective. Nice deep breath in. So now there are two of them. One that we hold with us in our heart space, and one that has joined with everybody else's inside that bigger bubble that we created. Because we know that we know. It is just a simple, thin veil of forgetfulness that will dissolve with our intent. Be open to what comes. There will be triggers for you to remember who you are, why you are, where you really are, and what's next. Your spirit wants to play with you. To share it with you. Take a nice deep breath. Come back to center. And open your eyes when you're ready. You're muted, love.
Every time I heard your little Skype thing go boop, boop, it sounds like, more energy getting pumped into the bubble.
I actually had a first during that, which was feeling the pulse, the heartbeat.
Well, I didn't feel it the way you did, but I felt my heart pumping hard. And then you said that, and I thought, wow, that's interesting, because I feel my heart pumping, really hard. Well, like when your adrenaline's pumping right before something exciting is about to happen or something scary is about to happen, whoosh, that adrenaline goes and your heart goes, vroom, vroom. I felt that. That was cool.
Well, maybe because I was picking up on
maybe you were picking up on my heartbeat. What I was also thinking was that since all of us join collectively, that as one of us gets a little piece of remembering, then it will permeate and float and it will release more for the others. So each time one of us gets more knowing, the veil becomes even thinner. It will allow all of us to enjoy that benefit. I like that.
Yeah, nice. And it felt important to maintain one in our center as well as project one into our bubble.
Because it's actually like connecting, and then we're still connected to it. I actually wanted to share something. I see we've got a little bit of time here. Because it's personal, I'm going to speak in generalities how it made me feel, but I'm not going to get into the specifics of the facts because they're probably not that necessary and they're private. But I had an amazing experience of creativity and owning my own creation this last week that I wanted to share. I had a situation where I had to respond, and I chose to respond in such a way that gave me all the power. And I'm talking about a situation that is with forces or situations that are constructs that we have to deal with all the time as humans. And I was extremely empowered simply because I had no fear and felt completely comfortable and confident in what I was doing, so that I took down a couple of really big companies this last week. And woo, it feels good. And they can't do anything because I have all the power. They have no power, and they have to do everything I say.
Sorry, I have a question. When you say you took them down, you mean in relationship to you personally?
I mean in relationship to me and a lot of people. They did something that was fraudulent, that nobody ever calls them on. And in a 4-year process, I called them on it. And they're either going to, no matter what they do, they've shot their own foot off. If they try to have me do something, I am happy to do that, because in doing so, I am the evidence. So my presenting myself will literally fuck them. So if they insist that I come, if they insist that I offer myself as the evidence, then they fuck themselves big time, even publicly. Big fucking time. We're talking, national news kind of stuff, but it may never get there. And if they don't, I win, because I've stopped them in their tracks and I get exactly what I was looking for the whole time. So either way, I win. And all I did was just feel my own power and allow myself to use my voice and to say and do exactly what I felt like doing. And in doing so, I have taken down a company and a system that I can't get any more specific than that. And I fucking changed the world, and nobody will ever know.
For details later, don't you?
Huh?
I'm hitting you up for details off air.
Yeah, I'll be happy to tell you. But the thing is, I did that. Just me. I'm nobody. I mean, I'm everybody. I'm everything. But I'm saying, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And just allow yourself to allow yourself to feel the power of yourself. Allow yourself to know that you create your reality. And then just take whatever steps you would want to take as if you were already in that position. And everything just moves out of the way, and exactly what you envision happens. And it was a long, many-year process. But the bottom line is, I won every fucking step of the way. And here I am at the end. And I can't believe that I wield the power to bring down a major company and another system. No matter what they do, at this point, they have to make a choice. And whatever choice they make, I win. Chess. What is it when you win at chess? Checkmate. So the point is just literally, I want everyone else to know that you can do this too. Anybody can do this. Just allow yourself to know that you create your reality, that you have the ability to attract anything and to expel anything you don't want, and just know that it will happen, because I'm telling you, I just did this. And if I did it, anybody can do it.
I'm trying to remember. I think it's Neville Goddard. But don't quote me. Because you said something there that reminded me of it. You said something about just focusing on having it already happen. It already having happened.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he does that. I think it was him. He said that too, that when you want to create something or manifest something, you focus on the moment immediately after it's happened. So being congratulated, or if it's a physical thing, taking, I don't know, using it for the first time, or but you imbue this moment, this visualization, with as much detail as possible and feeling as possible. But it's always after, not the getting of it, not the build up to it. Got to be the after. And his most favorite time for doing all of that is just prior to sleep. And you sort of programming your subconscious as you go into sleep and allowing your subconscious spirit to do the job.
Let's see if I can read this. This was something I called a deliberate attraction statement. I date everything that I save, and it was dated 5/26 of 2012. Whatever may come. So I must have been doing this about the same time that I met you. Let me just see if I can, if there's a word that I can't say, I'll just skip it and leave like, let's see. I'm in the process of uncovering and exploring everything that I need to do, know, and have to completely resolve the process with I love the thought that its resolution comes to me, that it is easy, and I have the resources to exceed any resolution needs. I love knowing that will be there for when that it will be that will be safely stored and will take place. I truly enjoy the loving relationship I have with my and I'll be able to leave it to when I move on in my life journey, and that alternate housing for me comes easily. That is so cool. I used to say that several times a week. I even recorded it in an audio so I wouldn't have to read it. I could just play it and kind of close my eyes and allow it to absorb. And I have every confidence that deliberate attraction statement has a lot to do with why last week I was able to have everything that I needed come to me, have everything work out the way that I wanted it to, that everything exceeded my needs, and it was easy, and I didn't have to do anything, and it was exactly the way that I wanted. Because when you believe in what you're saying, and you can call them affirmations, you can call them attraction statements, you can just say, allow yourself to feel it sensorially. It doesn't matter. In the end, it's the same thing. It comes down to believing that in the possibility that you create your own reality. Because now we're 12, 13, for 3 years since I wrote that, and it turned out better than anything I could have ever planned. And I am powerful. You are powerful. We are all really powerful. And I just want people to know that they have this power unequivocally. That was it.
It's not just that we have it, but to use it consciously, intentionally, and being responsible for it. They're the keys, because we have it. We've been using it all along, unknowingly, unconsciously.
Yeah. And that's what we'll begin to remember this week, is for each one of us individually, what is that kernel that we need to remember to allow ourselves into the next after that, into the next after that. Because what I need to know, what I need revealed to me, what I need to remember may not be the same thing that you need to remember next, or any of the listeners that are in the chat room need to hear next. But we'll hear, or we will get the information, get a sign, get get confirmation in some way of whatever we need at that moment to be revealed to us to begin to remember.
Very cool. Back on what's happening in the chat room. The earth is a living being with a pulse and a heartbeat. The heartbeat is love and the pulse is joy. Love plus joy equals love joy. Shall we declare love joy the frequency of our new earth? And there's a couple of yeses. Imagine or create now using the frequency of love and joy together. You know, I honestly, we're pretty simple creatures, really. We don't need much. We just want to be happy, joyful. We don't want much, really. It's not a lot to ask for. But you were reminding me of something that I forgot. Can you put that statement, more a homogenized version of it, in the chat room? But this one you used specifically, not in the chat room, sorry, on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
You used for dealing specifically with an institution or corporation and an element of the construct, an element of the matrix.
Yeah.
Do you think that part of the affirmation that, because you took out any of the tension in that affirmation.
I tried really hard.
That was all gone. And there are other people that I've heard from time and time again in the last few years, so that use the OPPT stuff or something, where they had success, and that was always an important element of it. They took the tension out. They took the us and them out. They took the fight out and stood within themselves in a place of absolute knowing that there is a creative solution based on truth, that the truth will reveal, the truth will win. As opposed to me or them winning, or the focus was on the truth being revealed, and taking the tension out is the best way I can explain it. That whole us and them vibe. And yet I know it's hard to get to that place. You've been completely screwed, and you understand the depth and the level of the fraud, and it's hard to get to that place. It's no us and them. And that's a huge challenge. And
and it also is while you're in process, because while you're experiencing this, each time you have to be in a apparently confrontational situation, it can, every time I would go and I would quiet my mind and actually meditate in this room while I waited, and every time I could have gone really scared like the average person, or I could just let it all wash through me. And so I kept working on that. And what I discovered is that this whole thing is filled with a bunch of numbskulls who follow this templated bullshit line. And when you throw in something that's not in there, sometimes they don't even hear you. And if they hear you, they don't know what to do with you. And every single time it was a different person that I had to talk to. So nobody would remember or even know what the person before had experienced. And it was like starting over. And so all the fear gets taken out when you realize it's like the Wizard of Oz, where you're afraid of the wizard because you see this picture of him, just like a corporation or a construct or a matrix, construct. But when you actually pull the curtain back, it's just an old guy with a bunch of buttons and levers, and it's exactly the same thing. You pull the screen back and you realize it's a bunch of numbskulls, and it cracks me up, who think they have power, but they only have power if you follow their regimented guideline. If you break them out of that and you can hang on to that time and time again, that that's what broke down the whole process. They just don't think anybody's smart enough.
Taking them off script is what we call it, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. And I used to do these deliberate attraction statements a lot because I was testing out that concept. And so you can write these deliberate attraction statements too. What you do is you just come up with about 10 things that you want, and you have to say them positively instead of saying, well, I don't want to work at that job anymore. Okay, well, that's what you don't want. What do you want? And then if you can get 10 things you do want, you just then, tailor them together in a paragraph using, statements like the beginning one, which was, I'm in the process of uncovering and exploring everything that I need to do, know, and have to be to blank. And then you stick in all those things that you wanted. And then it'll come easily to you, and, whatever were your things. And it works. What's that, 3 years ago? And I'm sitting here telling you that I'm now at the end of this, and I see that it works extremely well. So, I feel like that's evidence of some kind that this kind of thing occurs. But I'd love to hear what other people say. If they have any experiences like that, or next week bring the stories of what was kind of revealed to them or shown to them. But you are all powerful. Every single one of you is extremely powerful, and you can completely control and have the ability to create the world around you that you wish to live in. And get free stuff too.
More chat room updates. Hang on. Okay. I'm laughing. My letters on my ute, I guess the registration plate, YLJ, and I've always called my ute Your Lovejoy. Cabin, retreat, and land, I put out that I wanted all involved to benefit. My husband and I, the land, the buyers, the agents, but no bank. It happened perfectly and beautifully with a simple agreement. The 80-year-old lawyer said he never had a transaction with all the parties been so simple and well-intentioned before. And no bank. No bank involved. Nice. We can get what we want. First part is just being clear on what we want. Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
One of the first and hardest steps. Like you said, it's easy to write a list of all the things you don't. And I even had to pick myself up on that this morning when I was doing my morning writing. I found myself going to, I don't want it to look like that. And I was like, whoa, what am I doing? Kick my ass. All right. Well, once again, there's 2 hours gone real quick. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. Please play with us on the Facebook page. Put your updates, your musings, your moments, your synchronicities, how you feel or see or witness our affirmations during, playing out during the week. With this one, I guess anytime you feel like you remembered something or a piece of information came to you via whatever it means, just in time for you to be able to use it.
I can't wait to get those. Come on, guys, participate. Could be good stuff.
Because Barbara's got all the best stories.
I don't. I'm just willing to talk about them. Everybody's got stories. I want to hear your stories.
Yeah, me too. So once again, we'll see you next week. And bye for now. Have an amazing week.
Bye, remember. Everybody. Yep. I hope your phone rings and says, let the memories begin.
If you really had to make a difference on a large scale with minimal resources, how would you go about it? Have you ever dared to dream of doing that which seems impossible? On a planet steeped with corruption and destruction, the question beckons, how do we change it? Media has a far-reaching impact on people and has been used to manipulate humanity into our current destructive patterns. In order to affect people into moving into constructive patterns of behavior, we need to construct a new paradigm of media. Conscious Consumer Network has been created with the explicit intention of giving the amazing truth-seeking, solutions-orientated, alternative media a place to fully realize their true potential with a cutting-edge, high-tech professional media platform. In turn, some of the greatest freedom-seeking hearts and souls of our time have realized the true potential of what has been created and have come together to provide their insight and inspiration on CCN. Conscious Consumer Network has become a unique, interactive information and educational network which provides a free-to-view, live-stream, ultra-high-definition channel to the world and features 25 live shows a week and growing with the addition of multiple language broadcasts. CCN has features comparable with mainstream media, such as being able to pause and rewind broadcasts whilst being live-streamed. Catch up on missed or previous broadcasts, now available from the CCN high-definition downloads. You can now purchase a high-definition download of your favorite CCN show from ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a monthly pledger. This can be done with a monthly pledge of €10, which will allow you unlimited access to CCN's high-definition downloads, which hosts a back catalogue of over 250 shows which have been aired since the launch of CCN on the 1st of January 2015. In order to keep CCN on the air, public funding is needed. Please donate to CCN's Network Support Fund or become a monthly pledger. Help keep alternative media in the hands of the people. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.